Alrighty, so let's finish up 4.1 with not a lot of coding, but something I realized I didn't talk about, so I'll talk about that here. And I've already included these comments, and you can see them because I'm going to write this last function here, right? So underneath the calculate food diet points, then I'll do that one. We'll do that in a sec. And then I have sum up all the category points, so that will be what we'll code this time. But one thing I realized I didn't really talk about, but when you pass two arguments like we have here, position matters. Like if we were to go up here and we were to say put is apartment first and then home square footage, that would actually not work the way we want it to, because then is apartment would then have the home square foot, because these positions do very much matter. So whatever order you put them in, just make sure when you're setting up your parameters you follow that same order. And here we're not doing it, but another way of handling this default is actually setting it here to where if something wasn't passed, so it's another what we call edge case, we could also set, and we're not going to do it, but you could say like 0, right? Or actually in this case you could set false as its default. If for some reason when the function wasn't called, and you might think, well, what would make that happen? Well, remember, we're coding individually. When you're coding on a large project, you never know who might be using the functions that you're writing, and that's why making them as resilient as possible is a good idea. Okay, alright, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and set up our calculate food packaging, okay, points. Okay, we're writing a named function. Okay, we're going to take in something. Now, what are we taking in? So in this case, we're taking in, our parameter is food packaging, right? So we know we're taking in food packaging. So now we could go ahead down here, right, and set up our receiving, what we're going to have, what it receives. So food packaging points would be equal to calculate food packaging points. And what are we going to pass to it? Data dot food packaging, right? Okay. So again, hopefully by now this starts to be, like, oh yeah, I got this. Because we're just basically doing the same thing. The thing that's changing is our logic. So then we could say food packaging footprint. And I can feel myself wanting to abbreviate this every time, but I'm not going to. Okay, so food packaging points. Is that right? Cool. Right? So then we'll come back and add everything up. So let's look at this. So in our wiki, so now we have, if you did prepackaged food, it's 12 points. So based on whichever option you choose a point, these two are not related in the sense that you choose, your diet type and then you choose your packaging. So it's two different inputs and therefore two different functions, therefore two different things we have to code for. So in this case, we already have our types of food, right? So I'm going to write, and I recommend you get just more experience writing a switch statement. So I'm going to say food packaging, right? Give my block case. In this case, I'm going to make my life a little easier. So if we're pre-packaging here, right, in that case, we're going to return 12. Now, by the way, you could also here, if you wanted to, copy this down so you make it a little easier. When you have to kind of figure out based on how much coding, the more coding you do, the more experience you get. You start to realize, okay, it is good for me, because remember, at some point you're going to come in for a technical interview, and having that experience of coding as I try to code and talk does not always work, is a really good thing, because then you won't be as nervous. So in this case, If it's fresh, we return 2. Okay. Okay, so let's see if that adds up. So 12 prepackaged, good source, so in this case balanced, right? 6 points, yep. And then if you only eat local, 2 points. And then we'll do that same thing where we have a default, return 0. Okay. All right, so now let's get rid of that extra space because we do not need it. Let's come down here. Now we have all the things we need. So let's now set up our total, okay, footprint points. Right? Total footprint points would equal to what? Would equal to household points plus. Now this is where you might think, okay, this is going to get long. Well, that's okay. All right, so we're going to add all these up. Basically, that's all we need to do. Diet type plus food packaging points. Let's make sure I'm not just letting it. Okay. So household points, home size points, diet points. There we go. We got them all. Okay. Now one thing I'm kind of curious about, I'm going to select just this sentence, and I'm curious if I did a selection. Oh, it didn't do it. Okay, so let's, so did I do that reformat document? Okay, because sometimes what can happen here is when something gets long like this, you can code it to where these are a little more clear. But this works fine. So now the last thing we get to do here is actually go total footprint points. So now we should have what we came here to do, right? Which is we came here to write the module to calculate this. So in this case, let's go ahead and refresh here. I don't have any breakpoints anywhere. I'm going to say here and here, okay, because I like that. I'm going to hit this. So in this case, I have a total, right, so of 18. So 14 plus 2, 16 plus 2, 18. Good. So that works. That totally works. Awesome. We'll do the other one just to have the other end of this spectrum, right? Okay, 36. So 10, 22, and 14, 36. Good. Okay, cool. So this is it. This is, now we get to actually talk about displaying this. So now, and I hope you found this enjoyable because almost everything we did here was a repeat. And this is where you start to really hone your knowledge and your skills and your muscle memory of coding this stuff. So here's your last one, which is coding home size and food. Oh, actually, no, this is, oh, actually, this one's wrong. I'll modify this one, but this one would be, this is it right here. Okay, I didn't, in that one, modify that one correctly. So that's your commit message. And in here, the prompt I said is give me some practice writing a switch statement in JS. Definitely recommend it. You're going to have it in your checkpoint for sure. Okay, talk to you later.